You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? All right, hold on. Here we go.
What's going on, everyone? This is the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Travis Brown with MyAggieNation.com, TheEagle.com. The Eagle. We're on the road, sort of, today. I'm coming from you from Hoover, Alabama for SEC Media Days, but this is a technologically savvy group because we have Alex Miller of the Eagle over there at the headquarters, the mothership in Bryan College Station. What's up, Alex?
Not a lot, just a Thursday afternoon in the station, as some might say.
Yeah, and then we have Zach Taylor, WTAW, also in Bryan College Station.
Yeah,
but
not at the
Alex is
mothership.
rolling in Bryan. Alex is in Bryan, and Zach is in College Station.
Right. Yeah, right down the road. But Highway 6 does run both ways, so it doesn't take that long to get to the Eagle headquarters.
I wish I was in College Station.
There
Well,
we go.
you wish.
That doesn't make any sense. So, got to sit down and have a great little chat today with one Marty Smith of ESPN, actually on the set of the Marty and McGee show that they were hosting or filming with all kinds of stuff. I had to wait a few minutes to go in to do my interview because it looked like they were filming a segment of just Marty and McGee taking turns playing one of those like Cracker Barrel golf tee, jump the golf tee games. So a lot of exciting things happening there, but I got a good 15 minutes with Marty Smith. Very nice guy, talking about a little bit of his background, a little bit of his love for football that goes all the way down to the high school level, and then a little bit on A&M and Jimbo Fisher at the end. So without further ado, here is Marty Smith. Let's start off with a little bit about you, because I know when you watch your stuff on ESPN, you have you blend good reporting journalism, but also a love for the game and kind of that fan side. What is it about your background with the game and with your education that you've been able to find that good mix of kind of fandom and good reporting?
I don't know, to be honest. I am a fan, and I grew up playing all three sports, football, basketball, and baseball, and was infatuated with everything that came with it, all the hard work that goes into it, and the learning how to lose with grace, but repurpose it as fuel because I hate losing. And then as you progress into deciding that you realize you're not good enough to play at the next level, right? And so you want to be around sports. And so I had the opportunity to write a little bit and realized that was going to be my passion and my path, because I just knew if I was going to have any fulfillment professionally, I had to be in sports. And from there, TV happened, and now we got Marty McGee, and we just feel so grateful to have the platform to get to sit with these coaches and players and really learn about their lives. Like, we're not X and O guys. It's not our deal. We love the human element. And so that affords us the opportunity to be fans too. And it's awesome. We just feel, I feel extremely grateful to have kind of carved out that niche.
Yeah. So I know we've actually seen you in College Station, of course, with the SEC Nation,
there,
with College Game Day. What is it about the town, the city, the atmosphere in the stadium that makes it stand out more so than maybe any of the other stops?
Well, it's authentic, first of all. What makes the Southeastern Conference so special is the tradition and the pageantry that comes with, especially football. Certainly you could put baseball in there and basketball as well, but football in the SEC is religious. And down at A&M with the 12th man and Kyle Field and Midnight Yell and all those amazing traditions, and we're Jimbo guys. So having a great relationship with him, both professionally and personally, he has invigorated that place and rewritten the culture there. And so we love to come there. There's just a lot of authenticity. They love football. It is everything. It's the identity of the town. And so that's one reason that we just love to be there. Mm-hmm. You can feel the energy.
Now, I think one of the times you were there, we got to talk to you. You kind of pulled us aside afterwards and asked us about some of the local high school football games. Is that, I know that football at all levels is kind of a passion of yours from what you were saying. What do you get to slip off and catch some high school games every now and then?
No,
or?
I didn't, but I want to.
Yeah.
So where I grew up in Appalachia, a little bit west of where Virginia Tech is, it's a little farm town, and it is Friday Night Lights. High school football where I grew up is the main social event every week. It's the identity of the town. It's this rite of passage. It's an expectation for young boys growing up that you're going to play Spartan football because your daddy did. And so when they're successful on Friday night, when they win on Friday night, your daddies win at the office or at the factory on Monday morning, right? And that's all part of it. And so I love everything that is high school football. And so, yeah, I care deeply about that. We're sitting here with McGee, and he has to hear my freaking Uncle Rico stories all the time on our television program. And
Marty Smith was the worst player on the best team in the history of Giles County High School. Go Spartans.
That's it. Very well stated. That's an accurate analysis. I do maintain that I was the least talented starting player, not only on my team, but in the history of my school.
But you got a ring, baby.
I got a ring. And it's weird, man, because high school football is the fabric of America. I don't care if you're in Compton, California, or you're in Bangor, Maine, or you're down in Florida somewhere, Appalachia, or here in Alabama or Texas. There are little towns where it's this thread that weaves through the American fabric because it is a cultural event. Mm-hmm. And those kids in those small towns are celebrities. I mean, we had a Dairy Queen, a Hardee's, and a Pizza Hut, and we didn't pay for a damn thing the whole time. Haircuts, we didn't pay for. But the expectation was you better go win on Friday night. Mm-hmm. And so I just love everything about that. Still, I'm a 45-year-old man, and I love it. I love everything about that culture.
Have you been able to go down and see a Texas high school or a Texas State game yet?
Nope. We actually had North Texas in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. That doesn't count.
I've been to Texas State.
The high school Texas State championships.
I thought
not Texas State.
The Bobcats.
Yeah,
the bottom 10.
The high school.
I would love to. The answer is no.
45,000 people.
The answer is no, but it's funny that you asked that because, so I have a personal services relationship with Academy Sports, and we do all this content. And one of the things that I want to do with them is, because they're Houston, Texas based, is I want to go to Permian and Midland Lee. I want to go to that game and experience that game and do a story at that game. Because Friday Night Lights, from the book, my mother, I'm all over the place, I'm sorry. I speak professionally for a living, in case you couldn't tell. My mother gave my daddy that book. So there was, in 1990, one of the games for my high school was canceled. I don't remember why, but it wasn't played. And again, where I grew up, it's everything. We were in the parking lot hanging out, tailgating before high school games. And there wasn't a game. And my mother gave my daddy Friday Night Lights, the book by Buzz Bissinger. And I have that copy of that book now. Both of my parents are deceased, so it's extremely, extremely, extremely special to me. I just reread the book during COVID. And there's an inscription in the book in my mother's beautiful cursive handwriting that says, my daddy's name was Leo. Like, Leo, honey, I know there's no game tonight, but I hope this helps. Hope this helps fill that void. I love you, Joy. And it has the date on it. And so, like, that copy of that book and that book it is just amazing. And then the movies and the miniseries is the greatest show ever done. Uh-huh. And so I desperately want to get down there and experience that.
Yeah. I started out doing high school football and doing A&M now. And I guess since this is an A&M podcast, we should actually, get off the things that we love and talk about some good A&M stuff. Aggies this year. High expectations.
Hell yes, high expectations.
Do you think, from what you've seen, that they can live up to those expectations?
I do. We talked to Jimbo here at SEC Media Days about the declaration of going in front of that quarterback club and saying, "Hey, it's time. It's time that we beat Bama." And I think every one of us raised our eyebrows that became a public statement. But it wasn't just a statement about that it's time to beat Bama. It was a statement to his locker room. It was a statement to his locker room that said, I believe you can beat Alabama. And he didn't say it to them in a closed-door setting. He didn't say it to them in the weight room. He said it to a group of people knowing that it was going to get back. And we talked to some of the players here at SEC Media Days and asked them, what did that mean to your locker room that you know your coach feels that way? And you can see it. Are they ready to beat Alabama? I mean, as we're sitting right here, my answer is no. But I don't know. I mean, look, I don't get paid to prognosticate games. That's not what I get paid to do. There's talent all over the place. And we asked him about quarterback. You know, we want to know who the quarterback's going to be. I've known about Haynes King since before he got there because Jimbo told me about him. I was covering a basketball game down there. It was Kentucky A&M. By the way, as an aside, Buzz Williams, that was a really hard year last year. But do not be, if you're an A&M basketball fan, be undaunted because that dude is so special. He is an amazing man and a great basketball coach. So y'all are coming. Anyway, I was covering that basketball game. And Coach came over, and we had a conversation on TV first, and then he just sat with me for a while during the game, and he started talking to me about him, about King. He goes, man, look, he's got a really special skill set. He feels like they both have really good arms. They both have great command of the offense. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that competition unfolds. Look, talent, NFL talent everywhere, okay? So the expectations should be high. 9-1 last year in the conversation for the college football playoff. A lot of you guys feel like y'all should have been in the college football playoff. So that's where you want to be. Look, I was there in College Station on a farm, on horseback, riding around with Jimbo before he ever coached one game at Texas A&M, and I asked him, how do you define success here? And he said, it's to win the West, to win the league, and to win national championships. And at that time, with where the program was when Coach Sumlin left, you kind of go, it's going to be hard, man. You got Saban, you got LSU, you know, you got some Auburn. You know, the SEC West is an impossible division. Well, here he is, right on the cusp. So I imagine, as it should be, the energy in College Station is off the chain because y'all should be chomping at the bit.
Let's close it out with this. I know you said Jimbo's your guy. You get to see Jimbo the person a lot more than some of the rest of us. Jimbo the person, what makes him your guy, and what makes him kind of everybody's guy?
You don't even know.
Are we allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, go on and tell them.
All right. So y'all are going to get to see a side of Jimbo you haven't seen.
Okay.
So for the Marty and McGee program, you sure?
I don't know. Hey, Maddie. She's gone.
She's gone. What's the question?
No.
Are we allowed to talk about our spots?
I don't know, so I would say no.
You'd say no?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put...
I'm going to give you a teaser.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a teaser. So, sorry, you're going to have to edit.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, just leave it.
Yeah, I know.
Build
Yeah,
the
we're
suspense.
asking permission.
Build the suspense.
Yeah.
So here's what I love about Jimbo. Now, I've known him for a long time now. And he and I began our professional relationship probably in about 2013 or so. I got sent to Florida State to do some reporting before they played in the national championship. And he had his feet up on the desk. He's infatuated with Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt is one of his biggest heroes. And he knew that I covered Dale. And so he wanted every story. He wanted to hear just everything I could give him on Big E. So that's kind of where it started. We both love to hunt. We both love to fish. We love the outdoors. And so as time has progressed, that relationship has developed even further. Here's what I love about him. His branches have extended to heights he never could have dreamed. He's one of the most successful. I don't know what the number is now. You may know it off the top of your head. I think there are 5 active FBS head coaches that are national champions. Is that right?
So Matt coming in added one back in.
Right.
But
Urban left.
Urban left and Les left. Miles. So
Okay.
yeah, so it
who
should
do we
be
got?
about
Let's count.
Dabo,
Dabo,
Saban,
Nick, Jimbo,
Jimbo,
Coach O,
Mac Brown.
Mac Brown.
Yeah.
Is there anybody?
Is that it? That's
Yeah.
I really think that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like nobody else in the SEC has won one.
No.
ACC is Mac and Dabo.
Yeah, Stoops retired.
Mm-hmm.
Big 12.
Yeah.
Lincoln hasn't won one.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly had one.
Sark's Sark
Yeah.
never. No. I think it's 5.
I think it's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, so you have one of those 5. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so these branches have extended beyond his wildest dreams. He's one of the rare active head coaches with a national championship on his resume. His winning percentage is out the roof. He's one of the best developers of players there is, but he is still rooted in rural West Virginia. That is who he is. That is who he is going to be. And I love everything about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he and I didn't grow up very far apart. And we grew up very similarly, just like Coach Saban. We all kind of grew up in the same type of area where we saw what hard work really is. You know, your old man handing you an electric sander in July out on a cattle farm and saying, boy, go up on that barn and sand down the rust spots on top of that barn and repaint them, and you're sitting there cooking like an egg. You are frying like an egg. So when you have that as your reference point about what work is, this ain't work.
Mm-hmm.
This is nothing but a massive blessing
Mm-hmm.
that we get to be sports fans and sit across from these guys and learn about their lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Big thanks to Marty Smith for joining us on the My Aggie Nation podcast. We'll be back with more right after this.
Welcome back, everyone, to the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Alex Miller with the Eagle, joined by colleague Travis L. Brown and one Zachary Taylor. Travis is live from Hoover, Alabama. SEC Media Days wrapping up. Travis, it's talking season, and there's a lot of buzz about the future of the Southeastern Conference, with old foes Texas and Oklahoma reportedly showing interest in joining the conference. That seemed to be the storyline that kind of stole the show this week. What would you say, Trav?
Yeah, I mean, we went in thinking it was going to be all name, image, likeness, and it really turned out a lot more COVID, and then OU and Texas to the SEC there at the end. A lot of guys were asked today, coaches, players. Most of them said had some jokes and said it was above their pay grade, but a lot of interest in what's going on, and something that seems like there not only is there smoke, but there is a lot of fire too, and this thing could be moving quick. So curious to see what things in the conversation are. What you think, Zach?
I think the timing's pretty funny. I really think that this might have come, again, our buddy Uncle Brent Zorneman, a fantastic job yesterday putting this out there, but I think it very well could have come from Texas A&M's camp. I don't know if the timing right before their head coach goes on the stage would have been the best deal, because then Jimbo Fisher is fielding a bunch of questions that I think Jimbo answered them in the right way, but again, it's kind of taking away from Texas A&M at that point. But whoever had gotten this information out really wanted that to come to the forefront, and now you've got the Big 12 circling the wagons, the rest of the Big 12 minus Oklahoma and Texas trying to figure out what to do. You've got Texas politicians that are taking to social media saying how that they're going to try and put something together to stop this from happening. So it has been just a whirlwind, and I know that we put a lot of focus, and I feel like a lot of A&M fans have put a lot of focus on Texas specifically, but I mean the fact that Oklahoma is now getting into the mix, and obviously the Sooners have had a lot more success on the football field than the Longhorns have over the last few years. That is really adding some good power there. Now, when you were talking about the power structure, that's another thing that I actually was talking with my co-host this morning on WTAW, the Infomaniacs, and I don't know if Texas is going to be willing to play second fiddle to Alabama. And because it seems like everything that happens in the SEC, Alabama is in fact the power broker in that. I don't know if Texas is going to be willing to do that. And so it's an interesting dynamic, or will be an interesting dynamic when, in fact, it happens, if it does. Your thoughts, Alex? I think Travis is a little froze.
Yeah, I
It's
think Travis
cold
is
and
a little frozen.
Hoover.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines with you, Zach, of just um, I'm curious to see how Texas would handle potentially relinquishing some power, whether it's in decision making, financially. I mean, they have been the driving force of whether it was the Southwest Conference or now the Big 12 Conference for decades. And in the SEC, it's much more of an even playing field. If whether you're Vanderbilt, Alabama, Arkansas, or South Carolina, you know, across the board, it's more of an even playing field, and that's not something that Texas really does. They like to be in control. They've shown that in the past, and they make a lot of more money than their partners in the Big 12. So now, financially, maybe they get more incentive coming to the Southeastern Conference, but are they going to be willing to split the pie a little more evenly, per se, than as they do in the Big 12? And it looks like Travis might still be a little frozen.
Let it go. Let it go.
And
Don't
now
hold
I
it
am the
back
host.
anymore. You are the host. I am the host now. Look at me.
I am the host
Well,
now.
Travis, I think, got a little ahead of himself because he was talking about how great the Wi-Fi was now at SEC Media Days. And I think he jumped the gun just a little bit, or at least whenever it comes to a live stream. I don't know how well you're able to pull that off. But yeah, when Texas is coming in, they've got all the money. They've got the bravado, so to speak. I feel like they are able to write a lot of checks that, yes, their bank accounts can cash, but their ego can't, or their bodies necessarily can't. Their football team can't. And so coming in, will they play well with others? Will they play nicely with others? It hasn't been the case pretty much in every other stop they've been. I mean, you look at the different conferences that Texas has been in and how we've gone along the line and how they've just kind of broken up. And obviously, I think the Longhorns are willing to split up with the Longhorn Network. They're not going to be able to keep that once they come on with the SEC. So they would trade that in a heartbeat. My thinking is, and my wonderment here too, with Oklahoma and Texas, will they have a better shot at making a college football playoff now than they would have previously? Say if things remain at 4. Again, the expansion to 12, not a done deal as far as I know, is not a done deal yet. It looks like it's leaning that way. But, I mean, if things were to stay at 4 teams only, you think Oklahoma or Texas is even going to sniff that Final Four now if they're in the SEC?
Yeah, no, from a championship perspective, aside from the money, if the goal is to win, then Oklahoma has no incentive coming to the SEC because they've had a grasp on the Big 12 for a decade now.
Yeah.
And things don't look to be changing anytime soon. If you're Lincoln Riley, you're thinking, why are we leaving? We have the perfect setup. Sure, they haven't gotten over the hump of being in of getting to the championship game, but they've been in the playoff as much as anybody else has, pretty much. And if the playoff is going to expand to 12 teams as it looks that way, okay, say Oklahoma doesn't doesn't win the Big 12. Well, there's still 6 at-large bids, and say they lose in the Big 12 championship game, their odds of making it are still really freaking good. But now if you go to the SEC, you're competing against the likes of Alabama, Georgia, Florida, A&M's on the rise. LSU is just 2 years removed from their national championship. We know Auburn is a team that can get to the top. I mean, you go from competing against really maybe Texas and 2 others in any given year to you're facing 6 really good teams every single season potentially competing for that championship. Not to mention you have a team like maybe Kentucky that puts together a really good year. Or think about in 2014 when the Mississippi schools were at the top of the conference before they kind of fell off at the end of the season. So, yeah, if you're Oklahoma, if in winning championships is your goal or a secondary goal aside from money, moving doesn't make a lot of sense because you've got a really good setup in the Big 12. And here we are. We got our good pal Travis back. Did you get the Wi-Fi all settled over there, man?
Oh, he's on mute.
Oh,
Looking like
he's on
Scarface with that suit. Looking like Tony Montana. Those cockroaches. Yeah, no,
well,
he's looking like he's
Zach,
in the Miami in the 80s.
Zach, Travis and I, we've been doing SEC Media Days kind of breakdowns each of the last 3 days. And yesterday, we kind of talked about the storyline we focused on was the potential move of OU and Texas to the SEC. From A&M's perspective, if you're A&M, Zach, do you want to see that happen? Or if you're A&M, do you stick by what Ross Bjork says and say, heck no, we want to be the only school in Texas that's in the Southeastern Conference?
Well, if you're A&M, no, you don't want that because, one, recruiting, no, you no longer are able to go into a recruit's home and say, look, if you want to play SEC ball, which is the best conference in college football, the only way that you can stay in state and still do that is to come to Texas A&M. And, would that – I've been kind of getting in some discussions with a lot of Texas buddies here in the last couple of days, or at least from yesterday to today, about if all things are equal, if both A&M and Texas and Oklahoma, if all three of them are in the SEC, then they come at it with, well, clearly, obviously, the recruits will pick Texas over Texas A&M, or obviously they'll pick Oklahoma over Texas A&M. The only thing that's been really keeping A&M relevant in recruiting, in competition these last few years is the fact that they are the only SEC school in the Lone Star State. And I think they're looking at it through the same prism or the same glasses as if A&M was still part of the Big 12 and it was that same program. It had the same facilities. It didn't have the coach who's won a national championship. It didn't have all of these other things that it has procured since entering the SEC. The A&M program that we see now is not the same one that we saw in 2011. And I don't think a lot of the Big 12 schools, or at least fans from those places, realize that. And they think, well, and they, again, come into it with kind of this air of superiority and looking down at A&M and saying, well, the only reason grubby little Texas A&M is even in the works or in the talks right now is because they're in the SEC. Once we're there, we're just going to run things and no one won't want to go to College Station anymore. I don't think that's the thing. I think it's a culture fit for a lot of kids. Not everybody, particularly pertaining to Austin, not everybody wants to go to a big city. I know that may be hard for folks to wrap their minds around, but some kids like probably a college town where they know that they're the number one thing that's walking on the streets. Not to say that they don't treat them like that in Austin from time to time too, but it's a much larger scale, obviously. So a recruiting standpoint, A&M doesn't want it. And then from a history standpoint and knowing what it's like to work with Texas and Oklahoma and knowing what kind of problems that can bring to the power scope within the conference and how when Texas starts throwing their weight and their money around, that can really cause problems. That can cause rifts. We've seen that. It's doing it right now in the Big 12. So they know what it's like to play ball with Texas and how it doesn't always work out for the best of the conference. They can tell Greg Sankey that all they want to. They can tell the SEC that all they want to. I think what the SEC sees right now is dollar signs. That's what most of the teams are seeing in the SEC. So that's why I think it's going to end up being voted in. Again, they only need 11 of the 14 teams to vote things through, and I think that they will get that and some more because those other teams, like, I don't know, the South Carolinas of the world, they don't care. They're bringing in Texas. They're bringing in Oklahoma. It beefs up how much money they're making. It beefs up the conference. It's not necessarily going to directly affect them in recruiting. What do they care if Texas and Oklahoma, the better for it. We'll get some more money out of this deal. So is it the right move for the SEC to bring these two on? From a financial standpoint, yes. From a long-term standpoint, I'm not so sure because I don't know how this is going to play out down the road. We've seen it a couple of times already where it just hasn't worked out with Texas kind of running things in a conference. So Will they play nice with others is the big question.
Travis, do we have you back?
I'm back.
All right.
Back, baby.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sure y'all covered it all. So what they said.
Yeah, what they said. Well, Zach, we'll kind of move along from this because we've hit on it a lot, and we'll probably be talking about it in the future. But, looking at SEC media days, just from home, what were some of maybe the key storylines that you saw and heard throughout the week?
Well, anytime you're going to be bringing the face of the program to SEC Media Days, I did think, and Travis and I talked about this on Chip Howard Sports Talk, I guess last week or the week before. There's only 2 players for each team that were able to come and represent for SEC because of COVID-19 protocols and everything else. And the lack of really star power at the quarterback position, I think, is very, I wouldn't say telling, but it is noticeable for sure. JT Daniels, I guess, would be the biggest name coming in with Georgia. Yeah, we talked about Bryce Jones. It's Bryce Jones, the quarterback? Bryce Young for Alabama. Apologize to Bryce, both Bryces. But Bryce Young for Alabama coming in, and he's already been kind of given the keys to the castle, so to speak, for Nick Saban and company. But how is that going to work out? Is he going to end up being as good as he's touted to be? But yeah, there's that kind of lack of star power, especially from the quarterback position, pretty noticeable. Besides JT Daniels, maybe Matt Corral would be the next biggest name that you've got there that was present at SEC Media Days. So we'll see how it goes. I thought as far as coaches and personalities go, I mean, Mike Leach was pretty tame this year. I think everybody was expecting, okay, this is really the first SEC Media Days that folks get a crack at Mike Leach. He's going to get up there on the podium. He's going to be kooky. He's going to be crazy. I don't know if they necessarily got a lot of that. Eli Drinkwitz, believe it or not, is a guy that actually is pretty fun to listen to. He visited with the media today, offered some hot takes, I guess, on the whole Oklahoma and Texas possibly coming to the SEC thing. Seems like he's a pretty outspoken guy, not afraid to say some things that might get him into a little bit of hot water. So I thought, as far from a coach's standpoint, or at least being able to enjoy it or entertaining, I think Eli Drinkwitz was one of the most entertaining guys.
Eli Drinkwitz out there telling people last night and saying it again today that he's out there telling recruits that he's recruiting with both Oklahoma and Texas that, hey, look, even they're trying to join our conference. So why wouldn't you want to come, to Missouri? He's already jumping on that bandwagon quick.
Yeah. So that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. If somehow, which I everything that's pointing the direction that this in fact is going to happen, that Oklahoma and Texas are going to join the SEC. If it somehow were to fall through and it somehow were not able to happen, what kind of a blow could that give both the Longhorns and the Sooners in recruiting? Because any SEC coach could go into a recruit's home and say, look, you don't want to go there. They know where the best place to play is. It's the SEC. Come play with us. I mean, again, recruiting, I'm not an expert on that. I don't pretend to be. But it seems like that would be a big talking point. And as you said, Drinkwitz is already using it. You know everybody else is going to be using it. That's in head-to-heads against Oklahoma and Texas.
Well, I think for me, I think it would be a bigger blow to Texas probably than Oklahoma, because if you're Oklahoma, you can still point to all your championships and say, well, we still win championships and we're still getting to the playoff consistently. Whereas Texas, they haven't done that much in the last decade. They're on their third coach in just several years, and that would be a tough hit for them to not be able to close the deal on this thing. So I think Oklahoma would be fine. Honestly, I think Texas would be fine. But yeah, I mean, then you would have that counterpoint, like you said, Zach, of, well, hey, they tried, but they couldn't get in, and now look where they are. And not to mention, what's the fallout? One way, what's going to be the fallout of them joining the conference? But then if they don't join the conference, what's the fallout then going to be? Because Texas is making it seem like they want to explore their options. And, I guess a lot of that's lining up with the television contracts that are coming up. And, people have reported and noted those things. And so I'm curious, okay, if they don't, does that still save the Big 12 in essence, or does that just make them go to plan B per se, whether that's joining another conference or who knows, maybe even becoming an independent?
Yeah, I think Texas is. I don't see what there is to gain with Texas and OU joining the SEC other than money, and ultimately that's with the idea that the Longhorn Network is already going to be considered a bust and is going to shut down before the 2031 contract renewal because they are getting some money on that. But from a competitive advantage, there's not really any competitive. In fact, there is no competitive advantage for those two joining into the SEC, especially with the expanded 12-team playoff. They have a better shot of making the playoff in the Big 12. You might get a little bit of that recruiting bump like you were talking about, but I mean, that's just going to split it up and dilute the recruits from this area that want to go. And so it'll just keep everyone in a state of mediocrity, I would think, in this half of what it would be. I think Texas and OU are much better off staying in the Big 12. Again, the playing field is going to get a little bit more leveled if the 12-team playoff comes on. So this is seemingly boosters with big pockets who are tired of having an inferiority complex, thinking that they're not in the cool kids table and they want to go be at the cool kids table, even though being at the cool kids table isn't probably what's the best for you. And I don't think it's good for college football.
Yeah, it's not fun to be at the cool kids table if everybody gives you a noogie sandwich, because that hurts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've all had that from time to time. It happens.
Well, guys, we got to hit the road. We're actually walking out of the hotel in Hoover right now, so let's go ahead and put a bow on this one. Thanks so much, Zach Taylor and Alex Miller, for joining me. Thanks also for Marty Smith, who joined us and talked a little bit of ball and the ball coach with us. And God willing, we make it back. We will be back with another My Aggie Nation podcast next week. So for Alex Miller, Zach Taylor, I'm Travis Brown. We'll see you next week.
It seems like every day, everything just has a way to burst at the seams. But if we don't watch what we're doing, our hearts will get ruined by silly things. Good love ain't easy, girl, we know that's true. And if we wanna keep it, we gotta watch everything that we do, yeah. I wanna make sure, my baby, make sure you're sticking with me.